Episode 159 Above Ground Podcast. Start the healing.
Disclaimer. The hosts of this podcast, Timothy Patrick and Will Foley, are by no means medical professionals. However, having lived experience with mental illness themselves, they have gained useful perspectives on common mental health issues that some of us struggle to overcome on a daily basis. By sharing their stories, they hope to create connection. By creating connection, they hope to help you find your purpose. And through purpose, we can all begin to build the foundation for positive mental health. This is Above Ground Podcast.
Coming at you live with real conversations about mental health from the perspective. It's time for Above Ground Podcast. Now your hosts, TPP and Will Foley.
This episode is brought to you by Nipperfest. Nippertown is bringing you some of the best music from the capital region and calling it Nipperfest. Nipperfest is a local music festival and it's happening on Saturday, July 23rd at the Music Haven, Central Park, Schenectady, New York. Local food, local craft beer. Did I mention it's free? July 23rd it's happening, so bring down the family. Stop at the Above Ground Podcast table to say hi. P.S. This is kid and dog friendly.
Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to
Above Ground Podcast.
Above Ground Podcast, because you can't serve below.
No, you cannot.
What up? What up, TPP? As you can tell, my energy level is not, so I'm trying to manufacture it.
It's okay.
And
It's allowed.
sometimes you got to start somewhere, right?
Sometimes you got to start somewhere, and I think that's what we're going to try and help out today, a little where to start.
Where to start
the
healing, right? Well, how do you get well? Because you can't start the process until you start the process of getting well.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So you got to start the process.
Steps to take, some little nuances here and there.
Awesome.
I think maybe first off would be if, be open to therapy and maybe even be open to medication if you're not, if you're having doubts, at least be open to it and have a willingness to see what lies ahead.
Well, actually, can we actually go back a couple of steps, though? Because I think that the first important part of starting a healing process is to recognize that you have something to heal.
Yeah.
Before you get to, I don't think everybody's at that spot where they even recognize that they have something to heal. So
I guess, yeah.
I mean, I think we take something for granted if we just say, oh, yeah. Because to be honest with you, when you started to say that, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, before you even look for a therapist and start talking about medication, you may want to have a conversation with your doctor. But that also takes recognition. That takes awareness. That takes interpersonal effectiveness to actually recognize that you have something to heal from, or that you even recognize that something's wrong.
Right. Just awareness of yourself, If you find yourself tripping over the same log or just tripping in general, or you want to try and maybe improve your situation some. You don't have to necessarily have a condition or mental illness to see a therapist. They can help smooth over some bumpy roads for you. I think either way.
Yeah, actually, I mean, if you don't envision yourself as someone going to therapy with a quote unquote mental health therapist, I mean, you could even start at the life coach spot too if you think you need help. I mean, honestly, recognition is still like the first thing that you have to have. And you have to recognize that, you may not be on the right regimen of anything to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. So like setting those goals, or at least acknowledging the fact that you're not where you want to be, and having that recognition of self and that self-awareness to say, wow, I'm either not feeling good, or I'm not where I'm at, or I'm accepting where you're at, and then realizing that you have the power to change.
Right. I think that's a good, Yeah, like realizing that you may want to do better, be better, improve in some fashion. For
Yeah.
sure. So that would take awareness. I think even it would take some courage to ask yourself questions,
Well, and I think that courage starts with the recognition that you have something that you need to fix. And
Yeah.
and again, I don't necessarily know if everything has got to be a courageous stance either. I mean, because again,
Well,
it's
I think asking questions is courageous, whether it's,
yeah, I guess. I try not to attach the word courage to things like, because asking questions, like, I think in general in life, in order to do anything, you got to ask questions.
Right.
Asking
I agree,
questions,
but
though,
it's not easy, dude. That's all I'm saying.
well, it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's
Just like you said, you can't assume that people, are going to just look for help. They have to look within and say, "Oh, I want to." It's the same thing. Maybe easy for you, but
No,
I think
it's
some
not. It's
people,
not
hard,
easy.
It's hard to start the conversation, especially when it comes to mental health.
It's not easy to
It
ask questions.
It takes courage to ask some questions. It takes courage to look within. I think a lot of this, it maybe not whoever's definition of courage, but for me, I think it shows some courage, some strength to be able to go, hey, you know what? I'm going to look in the mirror and I'm going to ask myself some questions.
Yeah, that does take courage. I think hearing the answers is where the courage part comes in, because are you brave enough to ask a question that you're afraid to get the answer to?
Well, yeah, I think that kind of comes with it. I mean, if you're asking a question, there's, you're looking for an answer.
You are, but maybe.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you these are, this is more directed
I think it's all
for somebody
subjective.
it's more directed towards somebody who wants to start the process, of healing or moving forward, improving in some way, whether it's just solely based on questions, or after that, maybe after the questions, if you came through some answers, maybe you can start, breaking down some books and reading some books that kind of align with your answers or your questions,
Or read some different books that don't align with your answers and see if you find something else to ask yourself too. Because I think a lot of us do get trapped in that too, of just kind of like looking at the same stuff over and over again. Because I will say this.
This is starting. I'm saying starting.
No, I know. But even when you start at those books that you and I have referenced and you and I have on our bookshelves, like, they all say the same thing. There's people that have unique voices to say it, and there's unique ideas out there. But at the heart of it, when you break it down, I suppose if you were to like put it all in a pan, it would all still be, I think you would still come up with some of the same stuff. Yeah. Just that we have our own unique.
Well, yeah, it's however you're going to see
it.
it. Someone could say something differently to you, and it would make more sense as if somebody else said something. So it's just a matter of looking into these things and again, trying different books or trying different podcasts, and
not just books and podcasts, man. Go to some professionals too. I mean, and look, as far as therapy and stuff goes, dude, therapy is super beneficial. But again, if that therapy thing doesn't seem to be your thing right away, you can start with like a mentor if you have one. Because I know that that's a hard thing for a lot of us, I think, too, is that we don't really have mentors. Like, I know that was one of my things about going to therapy. And I told I've told every therapist this, that you need somebody that just is going to sit there and listen sometimes, as opposed to not giving you answers and just let you break down your own walls. Because I know what I need to do. It's just sometimes I need encouragement to do it. And sometimes I need encouragement to know that I can do it.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying earlier, is I think anybody can really benefit from therapy. You don't necessarily have a diagnosis or anything like that. But I guess one step would be, if you have insurance, you could always contact your insurance company and get a list of mental health counselors or professionals in your region or whatever, and that obviously is approved through your plan. You can go on Psychology Today, and you can search different professionals in your area. Sometimes it'll give you like details on what they specialize in, so that can always be a help.
Yeah, that Psychology Today breakdown of therapists. I think I've checked it every time I've had to look for someone or something for myself or anybody that asks me. And it always seems to be like one of the first resources. There, I will say it's a pretty comprehensive list of people that, and you can really filter it. You can filter it through your spiritual belief process, the type of therapy you want, your area.
Yeah.
I know, like now now with telehealth and stuff, I know, like my current therapist is in Washington D.C. and I only just found that out recently because my video connection wasn't made. So she called me and I saw Washington D.C. and I was like, whoa. And she was like, yeah, and I was like,
that seems to be more common the more I talk to people, just because I'm trying to find a therapist basically. So just talking through with different people, and a lot of people have out of state, or downstate,
And don't forget, every therapist that you find now, if you, like Timmy said, I think that that's the best thing to do is if you are fortunate enough to have insurance and you have a good insurance company, to start there and to start with their list of people. Because if you can find a therapist through your insurance, then you don't have to worry about getting reimbursed and all this other shit that takes forever. But you also got to be aware that not every therapist takes insurance. So that's why if you start with your insurance company, you'll know that they take your insurance right away. Now, could that change? Sure, it can change. I mean, a lot of things have changed in the last couple of years of people leaving their positions and leaving, their careers to change to do other careers. So you may run up against a little bit of just resistance as far as being able to find someone, but don't give up on it.
Yeah, that's one thing actually that I wrote down was don't give up or don't give in, because it can be, you're gonna get through you're gonna have to get over some hurdles, and not every therapist is going to be a good fit, or whether it's something that's in your head that's made up, that you have an idea of how therapy is going to be, and it turns out that it's not, or it turns out uncomfortable. But if you make it to that point, that's still a good point. I mean, you made those steps to get there, so follow through and keep asking questions.
Yeah, and I will say, if it is uncomfortable, it's supposed to be uncomfortable. So if it's uncomfortable, you might actually be getting somewhere. Just maybe.
Yeah. Either way, I think that's a universal, like one of the main variables is uncomfortable, and some people don't think that they need to get uncomfortable, they just, I need to be happy, and I turn on TV and social media and everybody's smiling and have this and this, and I need to do that. And I mean, healing's ugly and healing's difficult, and healing is a step-by-step process that, will probably be very continuous throughout your life.
Yeah, actually, when Timmy was bringing me this idea about doing this episode, because we never really did an episode about like steps to healing or how do you start the process. I printed out 10 principles of recovery, and one of the principles is that it's nonlinear. This is not like a straight line. Nothing's a straight line. There's going to be zigzags. There's going to be dead ends. There's going to be cutoffs. There's going to be all that shit. So be prepared for it.
Yeah, occasional setbacks. That's one thing to mention, because you can do, 1 or 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back. It's again, those are like the hurdles that I was trying to mention before. It can be discouraging, and you're gonna meet with resistance, like Will said. And, it's a matter of, it's a willingness to just go through it, and try to understand that, it's not going to be an overnight thing. There's not going to be one pill that will, magically heal you and make all your woes go away. And some of your woes are completely natural,
Yeah, some of your woes are to be expected.
Yeah.
And to be accepted. I mean, you gotta kind of accept where you are. So you gotta realize, man, that life is sloppy, it's messy, it's painful, it's not, and like Timmy said, man, we're not meant to be. Happiness isn't, some like something outside that, it's inside. It's an inside job. So the only way to make it an inside job is to do the work to make it work for you inside. And that's the essence of what you need to heal, is just yourself to get to that point.
Agree. Well said. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I don't think I can really add much. Give it time. Give time. Allow space. Allow the space for all of the things that are going to, come your way, and be open to the uncomfortableness and the new things that you may not have thought were there that you uncovered.
I like that you just said that, because as you were saying that, that's what came to me. It's like, you got to realize that as you're working on this process, everybody around you is not. And your life is going to change, regardless of whether you like it or not, whether you're comfortable with it or not. You're going to learn truths about yourself and truths about others that you may not be quite ready for, or you may not know how to navigate. However, don't let that stop you, because the only way out is through. And on the other side of that, man, you never know what the hell's going to be there.
Right. Yeah. I agree.
It might be a brick wall, or it might be a shining mound of sunshine that,
I think what's most important, especially, in the beginning stages and starting the process, is not necessarily try not to focus on what is behind the wall or over on the other side of the bridge. Just focus where your feet are at and the steps that are in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't get
ahead of yourself.
Yeah, don't get ahead of yourself. And again, like, it's great to have a grand goal, but as much as I have to admit, like, I get grand goals, but I often don't put the fucking steps together in the proper order, and that makes you step back further. That brings you further step back. However, as long as you learn from it, it's not a problem. And it's how we look at everything that's going on in our lives, how they become problems and how they become learning experiences. It's really a mindset. And it's not a mindset that I've had for very long. It's taken me a long time to just be able to say that that's a mindset, let alone have that mindset all the time.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the process, of what we're talking about, there's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I think that also what to kind of piggyback on what you were just saying, if you look at it in a certain light, you can learn from these things, So maybe the next steps, I can be like, oh, I remember that one. That's a little bumpy one. So either I can try and prepare for that, or maybe I can try and take another step. Either way, I think as long as you're moving forward, I think it can help you, build some resilience as well.
Yeah, and I'll say this: you have a lot more resilience than you give yourself credit for. Because if you've got X number of years on this planet and you haven't cashed in your ticket yet, well, then you've been pretty resilient, regardless of what's happened to you.
For sure.
So you gotta have, like, that's something to celebrate. But and that's another thing too on the process of healing, and this is something I've had to learn, and this is something my therapist has told me I had to learn, is that I have to celebrate the little things and the victories, because I don't know how to celebrate victories. I just don't.
Yeah. I think what I one thing that I kind of, I'm sure it's been said before, not like I came up with it, but one thing that I kind of stumbled across and just kind of like opened my mind to was, it's, we've used the term holding space before, and I think you need to allow space for all things, like we allow space for grief, and I think you have to allow space to be happy and allow space for each individual thing, kind of welcome them, and and not necessarily, doesn't have to be, it can be a uncomfortable feeling. Allow some space for dysfunctional thoughts and go, okay, I don't have to invite these thoughts into the house. I can see them at the door and go, okay, I know you, oh yeah, okay, I know you. All right, well, now you can go home, and send them on their way. But I think sometimes, giving some space to it can be of use.
Yeah, you don't have to believe every thought that comes into your head. You're not. I mean, you're really not supposed to. They're really just like
thoughts.
It's like walking through a fun house with the mirrors. It's just like, that's what I liken it to. Mm-hmm. Don't buy into it. Just let the thought go. If it's not a thought that you wanna put on, put that thought down. Just put it down. Step away.
Down. Yeah.
Put it down. Step away. And let it sit.
That's a good kind of imagery thing to use. Is if you're
you don't know where that thought came from, put that thought down.
Put it right down.
Yeah, that's not my thing. But
I look at this stuff. We're talking
no,
about.
I'm saying that's not my concept.
Oh,
that's a concept that I got from Michael Bernard Beckwith.
Oh, it's all right.
That he's like, put that thought down. You don't know where that thought came from. So you got, like, again, and that's part of healing. You got to recognize that just because you have a thought or just because you've thought something in the past doesn't mean that you can't change your mind.
Right.
Because that's the one thing. Jim Rohn said it best. You're not a tree. You can change. You
can grow.
You can grow. If you don't like it, leave. It's just that it's that easy. It's if you don't like that thought, leave that thought and try to find a different thought.
Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about some of these principles that you brought to the table?
Sure. We can talk about some.
Do you know where that came from or no?
I do not. It
Right.
was on something that I have access to, and I don't know if it was like, for some reason I feel like I've seen this before. And I may even have it in someplace else, but not where I got it from today.
It's cool. I've been skimming over a little bit of it, and you were mentioned earlier about life coach, and peer support is on this, which I'm thankful that it is, because obviously we believe in it, and I think it deserves its place, on these lists. I think peer support is underrated, and it's not utilized enough.
I will say this, as I'm learning more and more about peer support and what peer support is, what it isn't, the thing is that as with peer support, you know what, man, you can offer suggestions, you can offer hope, but that doesn't mean that people are going to take you up on it. And don't let that be a reflection of you.
Right. Perfect.
So it's not a reflection of you.
No.
It's a reflection of them.
Right. So the first one on here is self-direction. It says people lead, control, exercise choice over, and determine their own path of recovery.
Right.
So you have more of a say in this process than you may think.
Right, but you also have the choice to not recover.
Sure.
And that may not necessarily be the best choice for you, but it is your choice.
Right.
It is your choice. As long as it is your choice. Some people do not have that choice right away, but they earn it later on. But most of us, a lot of us, and most of us that listen to this podcast, I think, are probably on that side that have the autonomy to do it, to recover or not to recover. and your recovery is going to look different than mine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, it's funny that you say that because the next one is individualized and personal and person-centered, and it says there are multiple pathways to recovery based on an individual's unique strengths and resiliencies.
Right.
So it's
Because
yeah.
it is. It's definitely customizable. It's one of the most customizable things that you can do. Yeah, the next one afterwards is empowerment. And empowerment, it says people have the authority to choose from a range of options and to participate in all decisions. And it's very important that you feel that you have the choice and decision and the ability to make the choice for yourself. And you don't want to leave that choice up to somebody else, man. But the only way you don't leave that choice up to somebody else is to do it yourself. Because at some time, if, things don't go a certain direction, you may find yourself in the spot that you have no choice.
That's true. Good. Yeah.
Depending on where you are in your journey in life and stuff.
While we're on that topic, I just want to add in a few things that you have the right to know, and you have rights, but you have the right to choose the kind of therapy and the kind of medication. You have the right to be treated with respect and as a human being. You have the right to question a diagnosis or a treatment plan, and you have the right to terminate treatment. You have the right to share your feelings and communicate when your needs are not being met.
And you also have the right to see your records, too. Don't ever let somebody tell you can't see your medical records, because you actually do have the right to see your medical records. So regardless of, most situations, you will have that ability to see your medical records.
Yeah. And I think that, you can, obviously use them for good, at least help, little indicators here and there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need indicators.
Indicators are good, for sure.
Indicators are good.
So the next one is holistic. Recovery encompasses an individual's whole life, including mind, body, spirit, and community.
Yeah.
So
mind, body,
that's
spirit,
another
and
thing
community.
that we kind of didn't really mention, but, there's other... I mean, we kind of did, but not really specifically, but, there's different... professionals, there's different areas, and you can try things like more holistic, like energy healing, Reiki.
Yep. And just remember, though, if you're going the insurance route, and you have to explicitly go the insurance route, because I will say this, and this discussion's come up on a couple of the past podcasts within the last couple months with professionals, as well as our own personal conversations, is that the holistically, as far as certain treatments go, a lot of stuff is not covered under insurance, man. So, and unfortunately, most people don't have $150 sitting in their bank account every week to either pay for therapy or pay to go to Reiki or. And again, Reiki and energy work may not be for everybody.
No, it's not. But I just wanted to throw it out there that it's an option.
That's an option. Absolutely, it's an option. Absolutely, everything is an option. I mean, you can look at your gym membership as a mental health
right. And I was just
expense because.
And I was even going to say you could even without any kind of monetary cost, you can go take a walk in nature.
Yeah, for free.
For free. That's what I'm saying.
For free.
And maybe if you're lucky enough, you have some support or a friend, and maybe that friend has a couple fishing rods, and you can,
right.
Just little stuff like that you may not think could be of use is definitely of use.
And let's say this, that is actually a form of peer support.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not you're an actual peer supporter, with different things with credentials or anything,
right?
That legitimately going out with a buddy and hanging out and shooting the shit, it can be looked at as a form of peer support, man. Because
absolutely,
and that's where peer support really comes from. That comes from that idea that shared experience of life is what makes it valuable.
Let me say this, actually, just because we're on the topic of peer support and peers in general, but, as you're, Will kind of touched on this earlier, but as you're, going through the process or even starting this process, if you find yourself, if you, decide to go on a walk or do something fun with a peer or a friend, and, you start to realize that they're not conducive to your healing, it's obviously okay to kind of step back and take a breath and say, you know what, at least for right now, this isn't a good road for me to take.
Absolutely. That comes in that personal,
Right.
and that also fits into self-direction, and it fits into the actual last one that I wanted to get. Well, the second to last one, which is responsibility. Because again, the biggest responsibility you have is your healing process
For your own self-care journeys.
Now, there's other responsibilities, but as far as when it comes to this particular thing, you don't get better without taking the responsibility of healing. Like, it just doesn't happen. You just don't wake up one day and go, wow, I wish I was healed, and then go back to, doing your crossword puzzle and whatever. Again, like, it's...
I wish it worked that way. Damn it.
I know, man. I wish it was just as easy as sitting down on the TV, as sitting down and watching TV. But, and maybe it can be if you're watching the right stuff. But there's also a little bit of work. There's work. There's actual work that has to be done.
But yeah, watching a feel good movie, a comedy, or your favorite movie or whatever, it could be a form of self-care, Just don't overdo it and sit in front of the TV or something for 10 hours at a clip.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't mix up self-care with self-care.
So as Will said earlier, non-linear is on the list as well. We've talked about that numerous times, how healing is not linear.
Yeah, no, you're gonna go around that bend. You're gonna make the left at the street sign, then you're gonna drive up to the next tree. You're gonna take a left at the next tree. You're gonna drive up to the next bush. Yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty. Bush. He said bush. Yeah, cool.
Strength-based. Recovery focuses on valuing and building on the multiple capacities, resiliencies, talents, coping abilities, and inherent worth of individuals.
Yes, we are all, every single person on this planet is worthy. Repeat that with me. Is worthy. Every single individual. Okay? Every single individual. Regardless of where they come from, what they do, who they are. We have an inherent worthiness as humans. Now,
you may not feel it, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily
and
true.
Just because you don't feel it doesn't necessarily mean you're right. So there's that too. However, we all have worth. Every single one of us. And the thing is that the most important worth is your own self-worth. And if there's anything that I can ever leave this planet saying that, because it's taken me years to realize that I have worth, and I can't express it enough that, so you need to feel it yourself and recognize yourself that you have self-worth. But sure. I think getting on this path, though, I think if you were to take on this path, I think you recognize that you have worth. You just may have misplaced it.
Misplaced it. I like it.
Yeah. You misplaced it.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to crack open the pain and start the healing.
Yeah.
You got anything to add?
The very, very last one is hope. What do you hope? What is your hope for healing? Like that's like, I mean, again, Healing is not about that fallacy of being happy. Okay? Happiness is really an emotion. It's not really necessarily I don't look at it as a, like, happiness is one of those accumulative things. Now, that doesn't mean, though, that when you're not happy that you don't have any worth. So don't conflate the two.
Yeah. I think
But
hope is knowing that, people do overcome and you're not your illness and things do get better.
Yep.
And things can get better,
Yeah, they can get better. They can.
Right.
They can get better. I don't, there's a certain part of reality that, okay, a duck can't be a dinosaur, and a dinosaur can't be a human, and I can't be a basketball player. Like, I just can't. So don't, yes.
You can be an elf.
That's true. You're right. I am all for, saying you can do anything in this world that you want to do, but you got to be realistic, too. And
He's an angry elf.
I'm a South Pole elf. Actually, southeast,
South.
maybe. Southeast, a couple degrees, maybe.
So hopefully we touched on a few things that you can find useful in your healing journey and starting the healing.
Yeah. Starting that healing process, it's scary.
It's a big first step.
It is, but it is the first step.
Yeah,
And
it counts.
And it does count. It really does count. And you count.
So do you.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Wow. I always know that I can count on you when I'm feeling down.
Until next week.
Get well.
Be safe.
Stay
above. Thank you for giving us a listen. New episodes every Wednesday. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can share, rate, review, and even subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. Other ways to support the show: follow us on social media, share the content, share our episodes. You can also buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/abovegroundpod. For further concerns, show ideas, or just to say hi, you can email us at abovegroundpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, thank you for listening and supporting mental health. Keep the conversation going and stay above.